up, ladies and gentlemen? You are listening to Campfire Catholicism. I am your host, Elton Jarvis. So glad to have you guys listening in again. I just said again twice, to another episode of Fairytale Friday. Okay, so the first episode we went through the prologue and we talked a little bit about the beast's character and what that can reveal in masculinity. The episode after that, we talked about Belle, or an introduction to Belle, and I stumbled through talking a little bit about femininity, but more importantly, just about who Belle's character is, okay, and what she longs for and what she desires. So, again, I will never fail to thank everybody that is listening to the show, so I just want to, again, give my thanks to all of you guys that are listening into this. So today, in this Fairytale Friday episode, we are going to be discussing about Gaston and his character and what it can reveal to us about toxic masculinity, which that's going to be a very, very interesting topic to dive into. Gaston's character, he seems very prideful, very arrogant, and it's so easy to draw that. I mean, you just look at his character, and that's just what it is. But I think it goes a lot deeper than that. Or I guess with the pride and with the vanity and the narcissism, we can draw even more deeper distinctions that even us, like myself, as a man, can go through. I'm certainly not void of this. I am not infallible, and no man is. Unless you're Christ Jesus, you are not an infallible man. So we can fall into these. I'm going to be diving into some inspiration from John Eldridge's book called Wild at Heart. For all of you men out there that are listening to the show, that book's a very good book to learn about masculinity and how masculinity is wild. And it's good if it's wild, but it also needs to be ordered. And so John Eldridge talks about these 3 points, okay, and he talks about them in regards to the nature of man, or man's desires, let's say. So number one is a battle to fight. Number 2, an adventure to live. Number 3, a beauty to rescue. Those are the 3 points, the 3 desires in every man's heart, okay? Now, Gaston goes against all of these points, and actually, as I looked deeper into his character and I rewatched the 1991 animated version in order to research for this because I really wanted to dive deeper into his character. I've created 3 counterpoints to these affirmative points, and they are followed. So in the virtuous man's heart, number 1 is a battle of fight. In the unvirtuous man's heart, or the vicefulness, is that even a word, vicefulness? The unvirtuous man, number 1 is a victory to rob. In a virtuous man, number 2 is an adventure to live. In an unvirtuous man, number 2 is actually an addiction to passion. And number 3, in the virtuous man, it's a beauty to rescue. But in the unvirtuous man, it is a lover to dominate. And we are going to go through these points about Gaston's character, and we're going to deconstruct them by not only looking at what he has said and what he does and some of the actions that are displayed in the movie, but we're even going to look a little bit into, I might even draw some parts from Gaston's song, which is, again, all of the songs that are written in Beauty and the Beast are very well-written songs that they can reveal to us more about ourselves and more about who we are made for. So let's go to the first point of the unvirtuous man, a victory to rob. So here's a part in the song Gaston that really reflects this. I won't be singing it, so sorry to all of you that would like to hear me sing this song. I'm not going to be doing it. Perhaps in the future, maybe I will. But I'm going to read to you the dialogue in what Gaston and LeFou are saying during this part of the song. LeFou, I'm afraid I've been thinking. A dangerous pastime, I know. But that wacky old coot is Belle's father, and his sanity's only so-so. Now the wheels in my head have been turning since I looked at that loony old man. See, I promised myself I'd be married to Belle, and right now I'm involving a plan. The greatest of thieves, all of the criminal masterminds, they are all skilled and they're tactful planners, filled with deceit and cunning. They speak of roses, yet their mouths are dripping with venom, ready to make their attack. And a lot of famous fictional characters that are villains are good at this. Emperor Palpatine, Sauron, Dracula, and that's just to name a few off the top of my head. But all of them are good at being deceitful and being cunning, while also being ridiculously powerful as well. If any of you guys listened to my Nature of Evil and Problem of Suffering episode in Adventuring to Tolkienverse, you'll know this. You'll know that evil is equally real as good. It might not be as powerful as good, but it is still pretty powerful because it is immortal. And so yes, all of these villains are very good at being deceitful. The one true villain that has inspired all of them is Satan. He is known to be the father of lies and a thief. And we all know that all thieves are great liars. And obviously Satan is one of them. We see Gaston fit the bill of a thief and a liar. What is funny is that he presents himself in regards to this one piece of dialogue. He even says to LeFou, I'm afraid I've been thinking. We can even go deep into even our own masculinity. For all of you females that are listening to this, I apologize, but perhaps you can draw something out of this. But actually, you don't even have to be a male to do this. You can even just be a human being. But in regards to Gaston, saying, LeFou, I'm afraid I've been thinking. That is his inner consciousness already stirring up, being like, hey, I don't think this is a good way to go down. And we can tend to overthink things and overcomplicate things, and we just think as a pastime, but that can, again, be very, very dangerous. And I'm going to read why it is dangerous. Because arrogant rationalism is dangerous, and the toxic man or woman can fall into it. It can lead to relativism and justification of sin. LeFou even answers what Gaston actually says. He even answers a dangerous pastime. He affirms Gaston, it's dangerous. It is a dangerous pastime to just think and to rationalize everything just by your own reason alone. Especially if you're narcissistic, is especially dangerous. But Gaston, he ends up answering with, I know. And then he proceeds to communicate LeFou what his plan is. It's as if here that Gaston here is committing a mortal sin. He has given full consent to this arrogant rationalism in justifying this first degree mortal sin in his heart and in his mind. He even states at the very end of that dialogue, or that song piece, he is evolving a plan. And his plan is at the expense of not only just everybody around him, as he eventually drags the village into this mess, and we watch this later on in the movie. It's also at the expense of himself. Our own arrogant rationalism and cunning, especially when it involves the things we desire, can cost us ourselves as well. When we justify sin, it's like we are doing this. And I love how the scene is shot. Gaston is sitting in his chair. He's kind of almost in a way stroking himself, stroking the side of his face, as if he's pleased with himself at the concoction that he has brewed in his mind. Such a dangerous path to go on. It's as if Satan is there as a serpent saying, did God really say this? And we know the devil did this before. And the answer is, well, we're all not perfect and we're operating out of fallen nature because of what ended up happening. So the reason why I say that Gaston here is playing a thief is he also deceives Belle later on in the film by saying that he will release Maurice if she marries him. Maurice is Belle's father. So a little bit of a backstory for those of you that haven't watched The Beauty and the Beast. Maurice, like, he goes off to this, I guess, county or country fair because he's an inventor, and his invention ends up working, so he ends up going off, but he gets lost. And then he stumbles upon the Beast's castle. And then as he stumbles upon the Beast's castle, the Beast basically imprisons him. And then Belle goes out to look for him, finds him, and she ends up sacrificing herself for her father by taking his spot as being a prisoner. And we'll talk more about what that looks like later. And so the Beast frees Maurice, and Maurice is begging Gaston and begging the townspeople, like, guys, I saw a Beast. I was kept prisoner by him, and Belle's there as we speak right now, being kept prisoner by him as well. So, and then Gaston is using that as a plan, like, oh, we could say that Maurice is crazy, and that'll give me an opportunity or an opening to use this as blackmail so that Belle can be my wife. Again, he's a thief. He's a liar. Good liars know how to twist the truth. And we see Gaston being exceptionally good at this as he says, Belle, I'll let your poor father go if you marry me. And that scene is very, in a way, synonymous to, well, what we even read in the Gospels and what Satan even tempts Christ with. I will give you all of the kingdoms. Bow down and worship me. All of these I will give you. So unless you bow down and worship me, well, I guess I'm saying that right. That is what Gaston is. He is a thief and he is a liar, and he twists the truth whenever he sees fit. A virtuous man is not a thief. He is a formidable knight and a warrior for truth, and he defends it with every last breath. There is much honor to pass around for shield brothers, knights, but no honor to be found amongst thieves, just a den of snakes. The second point to the unvirtuous man. The second point is an addiction to passion. Throughout the whole scene of the song, we get a sense of LeFou and the gang encouraging Gaston in his passions and in his vices, and we see it. He is drinking, eating a lot, which could possibly be attributed to gluttony, encouraging his vanity by flexing, encouraging his aggressive nature by fighting without reason, flirting and leading women on, and the list goes on. The life of vices and passions is an addiction, and they are so addictive because they are so real, and what they mimic what we truly desire. I believe it was St. Thomas Aquinas who said this, and I know that Venerable Fulton Sheen also said this during a lecture. But the human person has a desire for food/drink and a mate. The reason why he desires food and for drink is to ensure his own survival. And the reason why he desires a mate is the survival of his race and his species. So therefore, no wonder alcohol, drugs, binge eating, and sex are so addictive. Alcohol is a twisted manifestation of drink. Water quenches your thirst, but alcohol makes you thirst for more. And usually the more is more alcohol. Binge eating and drugs are a manifestation of food. Food is supposed to give you life. Drugs and binge eating could possibly take it away. And porn is a manifestation of sex. Sex is the union of each other. You and your spouse in union with God as the cornerstone. Porn is a twisted manifestation of sex because it's only for me. It's not freely given. Christ has redeemed these. We have the Eucharist, which is a true redemption of food and drink. Jesus says at the Last Supper, when he holds up the bread, "This is my body, which is given for you." He holds up the chalice of wine, and he says, "This is my blood." Do this in memory of me. So Christ has redeemed food and drink, and he's also redeemed sex, the desire for a mate, with the institution of the church. Furthermore, the sacrament of marriage or the sacrament of holy orders, whichever one the human being is ultimately called to, the sacraments of vocation. That is not the fulfillment, but that is the proper manifestation of finding a mate. Marriage, obviously, very self-explanatory. You live a chaste, monogamous relationship with your wife, and you have a family. For a priest or a sister, their marriage is, again, to the church, to Christ, and their species, I guess you could say their species, is perhaps the brotherhood that they are in, or the sisterhood that they are in. And obviously the species of the mystical body of Christ. I guess you could call it a species. I'm using that as a personification analogy. Anyways, I'm getting my terminologies mixed up. Let's continue. The virtuous man lives his life as an adventure, not blindly pursuing his instincts of passion, but intuitively and reasonably perceiving the world as a big storybook and what it reveals to him about himself, the nature of life and God. It is then, if he lives his life as an adventure, he can know great defeats, but also greater victories, in which he can grow to not only strengthen himself, but the race in which he multiplies. The virtuous man lives his life of great defeats, great victories. And he takes all of that experience, all of that wisdom, and strengthens others and strengthens himself. Whereas the unvirtuous man just lives blind passion. Life is a little trifling to be meddled with. He doesn't even consider living his life of great victories and great defeats. Just the little ones here and there. Giving into his passions and his addictions. He doesn't strengthen others. He only obsesses about strengthening himself, which in turn, he actually takes away more of himself and pushes others away. Okay, so, third point. The third unvirtuous point is a lover to dominate. We see this manifest itself all throughout the story in Gaston, from the very beginning, even when Belle is introduced. This is the opposite to the virtuous man's point, a beauty to rescue. You see, Christ's victory on the cross is a rescue, but he still gives us the opportunity to reject it, or to respond to it and say yes. But it involves giving up control if you are the one in need, or if you are the one that is rescuing. Obviously, Christ gave up control by allowing himself to be crucified. And we also give up control in allowing that sacrifice to speak to us and being despondent to the grace of the Father, drawing us to the Son. Gaston wants to dominate, though. He doesn't want to give up control. And why would he? Because he knows best. He's a narcissist, and he's prideful. He thinks, again, he knows what's best. And we can tend to fall into this all the time. When we perceive that we want the best, we don't want to give up control. In fact, we actually double down on our control, and we obsess over having control. And we've seen these even in history with Joseph Stalin and Adolf Hitler. Both the far left ideology and the far right ideology. They thought they knew what's best. And so they obsessed over it, and they doubled down on their order. And what did we see? Well, Joseph Stalin's case, we saw communism and how communism can look like. And then in Adolf Hitler's case, we saw autocracy, dictatorship, authoritarianism in the Third Reich. So that can be very, very exceptionally dangerous. But we even hold these tendencies in our heart, and that's the tragedy of it. Gaston has this presupposition of what a female is and what she should do, which is a lot of what he says. He actually, in one of his dialogues, and I'll just see if I can get it here, in one of his dialogues, he actually kind of implicitly or inexplicitly implies the archetype of a female. Okay, and this is what he ends up saying, and I'll just get it here. This is the day your dreams come true. What do you know about my dreams, Gaston? Plenty. Here, picture this. A rusting hunting lodge, my latest kill roasting on the fire, and my little wife massaging my feet. While the little ones play on the floor with the dogs, we'll have 6 or 7. Dogs? No, Belle. Strapping boys like me. Okay, that was a little bit of my voice. But anyways, Gaston here, like, whether he means it or not, he actually speaks some truth into the maternal and motherly characteristics of the archetypal female, of archetypal femininity. He talks about her being the little wife, and that's the part that obviously you don't like. The little wife massaging my feet. That involves the feminine nature to console and to nurture and to be tender and gentle, because there's a strength there. While the little ones play on the floor with the dogs, we'll have 6 or 7. That also implies the maternalistic nature of the female, the motherly and the nurturing characteristic. I mean, 6 or 7 children, that's a lot of children to take care of. But an archetypal female, she can take care of them. Now, obviously, he's not explicitly implying that, though. I mean, he's implying that she should stick to what she is, and this is the part, like, it is okay for females and for women to transcend their gender roles as time arises. For example, we see Saint Joan of Arc, she transcended her gender roles. But she didn't question her gender role. That's the thing. And women, they don't question, or at least I don't think, I could be wrong on this, but I don't believe that they question their gender role. And sometimes they do need to transcend it for the greater good. But they don't question it. You know, there's nothing wrong with a woman who is a stay-at-home mom, you know, feeding 6 or 7 of her children, and, you know, even making food for her husband as he comes home from work. There's nothing wrong with the traditional family. God is certainly present there. And so we see that Gaston has this preconceived notion of what he believes love to be, and he wishes to dominate it. And we even see this in The Beast in one part of the story where he demands Belle to come down for dinner, and he says that it's not a request. And we tend to do this too. Sometimes we are very, very demanding of love. We're selfish. But love is freely given. It's not a feeling, it's a choice. And Gaston, he doesn't even allow Belle to make her choice. He's practically all over her until Belle kind of, you know, slips open the door and he falls out into the mud. This is during the proposal scene where Gaston tries to propose. And so that's all I have as of right now. I might even continue this subject in a later episode. But whatever points that you take from this, contemplate them, think about them, and I hope that there is some truth to what I am saying. Thank you so much again for listening to this podcast. Please follow the Facebook page, follow the Instagram page. I should be very soon setting up a YouTube account, although I am going to be posting some stuff asking if you guys would like that, if it helps with better accessibility. Again, you have been listening to Campfire Catholicism. It has been a great time. Have yourselves a really great day.